Welcome to today's expert webinar Succeed with Intention, which is brought to you by Get Abstract. My name is Ramona Maccinetti and I am your host. Thank you very much for joining. I have dropped the question in the chat. What's your motivation to be here today? And I already see loads of comments coming in. People want to be better leaders, want to work better with their teams. So, all in all, very good reasons to be here today. Thank you for your participation. I'm sure that each and every one of you has better and worse examples of leadership in your lives. And I hope most of you have at least one great example. So, if you're aspiring to advance into a leadership role yourself, especially if you're a woman and a woman of color, you already know that you'll face challenges as you work to succeed in a corporate environment, from feeling not supported to dealing with stereotypes and biases. And you may already know what you want to do, but maybe not how to do it. So please join me in welcoming my conversation partner, Shelmina Abji. Shelmina is the author of the best-selling book, Show Your Worth. After starting her career as a software engineer, she moved into sales and sales leadership, and she became one of the highest-ranking women of color at IBM, hiring and promoting hundreds of professionals and leading global teams. And as a worldwide empowerment speaker, she has addressed attendees at companies, conferences, and colleges, including Google, Edward Jones, and the National Center for Women in Technology. Welcome, Shelmina. It's so nice to have you here today. Shelmina, you're muted. You seem to be muted.
Oh, okay.
There you go. There you go. Hi, Shelmina.
Ramona, thank you so much for having me. It is such an honor. And I want to thank everybody else that has taken time out of their busy schedule and invested in giving me the opportunity to address them. Thank you, everyone.
Indeed. Shelmina, just in case you wonder, Shelmina is calling in from a hotel room. That's the funny background that you're seeing. And it's very early her morning. So I'm like even more thankful that she is with us today. So, Shalmina, your life story is really super remarkable and it's very inspirational as well. You're a very determined person. Would you mind sharing the origin of your determination with our audience? What inspired you to write that great book?
Yeah. So, two different questions: the origin of my determination and what inspired me to write this book. So, let's address the first. Ramona, I grew up humble beginnings in Tanzania. And my mother, who had fourth grade education, used to cook for people to make our ends meet. We would sell food on the streets. And, it was painful to watch my parents work so hard just to make our ends meet. And so the origin of my determination was that I truly felt if I obtained a college degree, then I would make enough money so my mom would not have to work that hard. So I could lift myself and my family out of poverty. And, this was a lofty definition of success for me at that age. There was no education past 10th grade where I grew up. No one in my family had been to college. We didn't have any money for me to go to college. People like us would not qualify for bank loans, but I was determined. I was determined to pull myself out of poverty. So that was the origin of my determination. And obviously, my determinations have changed and evolved over time.
Mhm.
So, what inspired me to write this book? Having shared with you a little bit about where I come from, where I started, and when you introduced me, you talked about the many challenges that people from humble beginnings, people that feel underrepresented, undereducated, underproficient in culture. There are many internal and external barriers that we face. And while I worked through those barriers, Ramona, there were so many people that helped me. And every time someone would help me, I would want to help them back. But I was not in a position, they were in a position to help me. And so at the peak of my career, now having started where I started, I rose up to become one of the highest ranking women of color at IBM. And I felt very burdened with gratitude for all the people that had helped me. So at the peak of my career, I left to help others become successful in a way to honor the people who had helped my success journey. And so that just started with mentoring hundreds of people and teaching them what had helped me. And what I realized is they were struggling with the same barriers that I had struggled with, that we had so many shared life experiences. And so as I shared what had helped me, it started transforming their career trajectory. And then I thought to myself, if I can help hundreds of people emerge as leaders at work, navigate career success, really truly change and challenge negative stereotypes and unconscious biases, then I could help millions globally. And so I decided I would write a book to do just that.
Thank you for sharing. It's an impressive story, and I read that in the comments too. There are people out there saying that they want to help and that they want to give back. So our audience is sharing, yeah, you wish to give back. By the way, dear audience, I would like to encourage you to use the Q&A function to turn in your questions for Shamina. So there is a chat and there's a Q&A. Please use the Q&A to turn in your questions, and we will address as many as possible as we keep talking. And in case you may wonder, I know that's always a question. Yes, the recording of the session will be provided to you in the next couple of days. Okay, Shelmina, it's in the book's subtitle, Intentional. When it comes to intention, you go beyond the essential goals of financial security and life progress. But more importantly, you say that you wanted your daughter to have a swing in the backyard. How important? Yeah, it's really a nice story from the book. How important is tying your imagination and emotions to your goals?
I think it is extremely important. When we make our goals deeply meaningful and personal, the energy with which we pursue them, we become unstoppable because we have created this vision and we have an emotion tied to it. And so there is so much more than just sort of a transactional definition of success and achieving financial security. And listen, there's nothing wrong with all that. We need all of that. However, when you have emotion and a definition that is personally meaningful, like deeply meaningful, there is no force in this world that can stop you.
Mhm. Yeah. In a very challenging environment compared to others, I guess it's super easy to dwell in a sentiment of being inferior, like less educated, less talented, less effective, whatever less you can imagine. Accordingly, you start to underestimate yourself. That happens a lot. You undervalue your own opinion. What do you think? How can you recognize your own worth?
Yeah, yeah. That is such a great question. You know, Ramona, I shared with you a little bit of my beginnings. That desire to obtain a college degree brought me to the United States to get a degree in computer science because I had read that if you learn how to program computers back in the day, it's still true, you make a lot of money. And because of my desire to lift my family and myself out of poverty, I came to the United States as a foreign student and I got a degree in computer science. Upon graduation, initially, no one wanted to. Obviously, I went to a small college, so no one came to my college. But then I went to a conference to look for a job, and no one wanted to interview me, even though I was on a dean's list. I had worked 35 to 40 hours a week supporting my education. I didn't have the right visa status. And so they wouldn't even consider hiring me. But on the last day, one company, a technology startup company called ETA Systems, they interviewed me, they offered me a job. And Ramona, the $27,000 that they offered me was more money per year, was more money than my parents could make in 10 years. And I thought, that's it. We're never going to be poor again. I'm going to show up to work, I'm going to show my worth, and I'm going to really figure out a way to always work and make money and lift my family out of poverty. I show up to work, very grateful, first of all, for having this opportunity. But I look around and I realized I was the only woman of color in a company of 2,000 engineers. I started looking around. By now, I had been in the United States for 2 years. And so I knew there was such a thing as Ivy League colleges. I started looking around. People in my company had master's degrees, PhDs from Carnegie Mellon, Harvard, MIT, Princeton. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, they must all be so smart. What would I know that they don't already know? So, to your point, in my own head, I erected this mental barrier that there is no value I could contribute because they know everything I know. And that instilled fear of speaking up.
Hmm.
Now, for me, I was very fortunate because I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Every challenge for me has been a blessing in disguise. And I want our audience to pay attention. Challenges are here to teach you. Challenges will actually make you very creative to solve a problem. And so, my challenge was within a year, Ramona, if I didn't figure out a way to create unique value, not any value that anyone else can create, but unique value to make myself difficult to replace. Because if
Hmm.
I did not make myself difficult to replace, they would not go through the resources to keep me here. And so I had to learn, and it just so happened that I had an idea once, which someone else stated because I was afraid to speak up. But him stating the idea and getting kudos and people telling him, oh, what a unique way to solve problems, validated to me that my ideas do matter,
Hmm.
that I had worth that I could bring to the table. I was capable. So that internal victory of realizing that we all have worth that we bring to the table. We don't have to be like anyone else. In fact, the more unique we are, the better our ability to provide diversity of thought. And so instead of feeling under, step into your glory, step into your uniqueness, find ways to solve problems, find ways to create value in your interactions by being yourself.
That's such good advice. And with your storytelling, without knowing it, Shalmina, you already answered a couple of questions that the people are posing in the chat. So here's a quote from your book, which I like very much. It reads, intention is defined as an aim or a plan. And in the business world, entering without either is like flying against a strong headwind. You run on autopilot, reacting to whatever comes your way, and yet don't make significant progress. Somebody had been asking about productivity here.
Yeah.
When you become intentional, how does the way you show up and change, like how does that way change your behavior actually?
It changes everything. You actually go from being on autopilot to being very intentional and strategic. So let me add the word strategy to it because all the leaders who are listening know that no company succeeds without a strategy. No human being realizes their maximum potential without a strategy. But just having a strategy doesn't do anything. What you must do is you must show up intentionally to execute upon those strategies, to make sure that you are moving towards your vision of success every single day. So, by being intentional, what you first do is you define what success means to you and you define it intentionally. So, this is not just business outcomes. We talked about this. This is about personal goals. This is about vision. This is about emotion. Sit, take time, and intentionally define what success means to you. And then show up to work every single day to show your worth in a way that you make meaningful progress towards your vision of success every single day. Because here's the thing, success doesn't just happen one fine day. Success happens in your everyday behavior, in your everyday actions, the way you show up every single day in all your interactions. And to answer the question about productivity, the second strategy I talk about in the book after you define your success is becoming very intentional about where you focus your attention. You see, Ramona, we all have 24 hours in a day. At work, we have 8 hours. What we achieve in those 8 hours is completely dependent on where we allocate our most precious, perishable asset, and that's our attention. So if you figure out what your vision of success is, if you figure out what are your strategic priorities, just as a corporation does, this is at a personal level. What are your highest and the most strategic priorities? And then you structure your days around those priorities. So
Hmm.
every single day, you are moving closer to your definition of success. You are being you're making meaningful progress towards that definition because you are allocating your attention only on what matters the most.
Hmm. That makes a lot of sense. Shamina, from your experience in coaching and mentoring, you say that many career people, and especially women, are confused about what success truly means to them. How is that?
Yeah. You know, Ramona, so many of us are driven by the society's vision of success, and we don't sit down to set our own agenda. And then we think that we have to go to work and put our nose to the grind and work 10 hours a day and say yes to everything instead of only focusing our attention on our highest priorities. We don't make meaningful progress. And even if we were to achieve some kind of success, if we haven't defined it for ourselves, that success is going to ring hollow.
Hmm.
You are living somebody else's dream. And so I encourage the readers to really do some introspection, get to know yourself, understand your values, understand what success truly means to you, and then become intentional about achieving that success.
Hmm. Your book, Shamina, consists of 8 chapters, which build upon each other. And in chapter 2, you discuss intentional attention. So you state that, well, you say that you determined the probability of winning a sales account, for example, before dedicating your time to it. So this is also
Yeah.
talking about focus. Do you have a system for accessing the likelihood of success?
Yes, yes. So intentional attention is the ground, literally the foundation, is determining where do you want to focus your attention. And the way you determine that, now in sales, it was all about qualifying your opportunities, but it doesn't matter what you do for a living. You must understand what your vision of success is, and you must also understand what are your top strategic priorities that will move you fastest towards your vision of success. That's why when I was going after every opportunity in my pipeline, I wasn't making meaningful progress. But once I determined which opportunities would maximize my chances of success and started focusing my attention on those opportunities and saying no to all the opportunities that were lesser priorities,
Hmm.
that's when I started making meaningful progress.
Yeah. I assume that so much of what results in unhappiness at work and in life is an inability to stick to priorities that make progress toward your goals. And actually, there is a question from the chat which I would like to address. Sometimes we tend to start something with so much enthusiasm, and then why does it happen that once we face setbacks, we put those goals on sidelines? And the
Yeah.
question, I guess, is how to tackle that.
Yeah, yeah. Such a great question. By the way, this happens a lot. So,
Hmm.
whoever is asking this question is asking it for so many people. And this is why in my book, Ramona, in fact, in the chapter of intentional attention, I ask readers to set aside a weekly reflection time. And that weekly reflection time has your 5 year definition of success because you create your personal success plan, which you use for your weekly reflection time. You look at your 5 year definition of success, your short term definition of success, and you look at your priorities every single week. And then you ask yourself, was I focused on executing my highest priorities? If not, it's okay because we all get distracted. But I want you to course correct. I want you to course correct, learn, and refocus. So if you start refocusing yourself every single week, then you will never lose track. The other really important thing is I also want you to recognize what you've done right. So I want you to celebrate small successes, because that creates a success mindset and it energizes you to pursue your success next week and the week after, the week after. So if you get distracted a little bit, whoever asked that question, don't beat yourself up, please, because we all make mistakes and you cannot belittle yourself to greatness. So be kind to yourself. Recognize that, hey, you know what? I lost focus, but I'm going to get back. The
Hmm.
key is to stay on track week after week after week. And if you allocate just 30 minutes of your time every week to look back, course correct, because we will get off track. There's too many things coming at us. Course correct, but then celebrate your success and bring yourself back on track. I
Hmm.
promise you, you will have the same enthusiasm, especially if you are celebrating your successes and energizing yourself. You will have the same enthusiasm as you did when you started that goal, and you will achieve that goal.
Hmm. And in all that you just said lies also the importance of saying no,
Yes.
saying no to things that are not part of your priorities, that are not part of the bigger picture and the goal that you set for yourself.
You know, this is such an important point, because oftentimes we think that we have to say yes to everything in order to be liked at work. I thought that too. And then my sales leader, who taught me how to qualify my opportunities and say no to lesser priorities and say no to opportunities that wouldn't maximize my success, said, Shelmina, you must aspire to be respected, not to be liked. And when you say no, help the people understand why you're saying no. You're
Hmm.
saying no because you're focused on strategic priorities that will contribute towards the success of your organization. So this is not about being selfish, because remember, our organization consists of us individuals, and when all of us become determined to achieve our success, our organization achieves our success. And so when you are focusing your attention on your highest priorities, you are ensuring that you are contributing at your maximum capacity towards the
Hmm.
success of your organization. So help people understand that here are my priorities. This is what I'm working on, because this will help us achieve more success. So the way
Hmm.
you say no is really critical. You have to be kind to the person and you
Hmm.
have to be firm on your decision. So I teach people how to say no. The last thing I want to leave with the audience and with you before we move on is there is a quote from Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett says, the difference between successful people and highly successful people is that highly successful people will say no to almost everything. And you see, when you start saying yes only to your highest priorities, people will not come and throw stuff on your plate that are lesser priorities. You will
Hmm.
create a brand for yourself that you only focus your attention on what moves you fastest towards the success of your organization.
Hmm. Yeah, and speaking of helping and working as a team and for the company, Jennifer posted a question in our Q&A, and thank you, Jennifer, for opening up, for being so open and honest. She says, "For years I worked to be part of leadership, to have a seat at the table, and now that I do, I feel my voice is not heard. How do we help leaders hear us in leadership conversations?"
Ah, I love that question. Oh, Jennifer, thank you for asking that question. I actually this topic is so near and dear to my heart, because as I told you earlier, I was afraid to speak up. And then once I realized that my ideas matter, that I have value to contribute towards the success of my organization. So that's key, Jennifer. Know that your ideas matter, and know that your ideas are contributing towards the success of your organization. That gives you the confidence to not just speak up, but when you're speaking up, if someone interrupts you, it gives you the confidence to say, let me finish. And in my book, I share an example with you. First, how I overcame my fear of speaking up, because I had erected an internal barrier that made me afraid to speak up. And then how, when I spoke up and people interrupted me, how I initially just raised my voice, but then there was an individual who was just as stubborn as I was. He kept talking over me. I had to look straight in their eye and say, let me finish. And I did not take a please, because I knew what I had to say was contributing so much value towards the success of our organization that it was in their best interest to listen to me. And you
Mhm.
do that once or twice, and it's very uncomfortable, especially when they're a senior. It's very uncomfortable, but it is necessary. You do that once or twice, and then you create a brand. Do not interrupt Jennifer, she won't let you.
Mhm.
So when you're speaking up, nobody will even, they won't even try to interrupt you. So the key here is first and foremost to know that you're creating value towards the success of your organization. Secondly, to not allow anyone to interrupt you.
Mhm. Great message. You don't see that on your phone, Shelmina, but the emojis are going crazy. There are hearts and likes flying around here. So what you're saying resonates a lot with people. In chapter 5 of the book, Intentional Growth, you talk about pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. You mentioned it a bit in the beginning. Can you say again, what's the most crucial benefit of leaving your comfort zone?
Yes, yes. So before I go into intentional growth, let me just touch base and share with the audience, and your audience knows this already. The only reason we are hired is because of the value that we will create towards the success of that organization. If you create what's expected of you, you remain in the 80%. Your goal should be to exceed what is expected of you. Your goal should be to lean into your authenticity and your uniqueness to create such unique value that no one else can easily create. So, what happens then is you become essential to the success of your organization. However, having said that, you could remain at the bottom of the rung creating immense value, because unless you grow your competence, because the value you create for your organization is directly proportionate to your competence. So unless you grow your competence, your future value will not grow. So it's not just about creating maximum value at your capacity today, but it is about building competence that will enable you to create more future value. And by
Mhm.
stepping outside your comfort zone, you will learn competencies that will allow you to create more future value. Learn relevant and meaningful competencies. This is not about just learning any competence. This is about learning meaningful and relevant competencies that will enable you to create future value. The second, and perhaps even more important than gaining this competence, is when you step outside your comfort zone, it is scary. But you know what's scarier is never knowing what you're capable of. So take those assignments that scare you, and then when you achieve the outcome, when you finish the assignment, look back and think of how scared you were, and then also know that you figured it out along the way. You asked for help, you struggled, you fell, you got up, you learned in the process, you made better future decisions. And what that does, it starts building trust in yourself. It
Mhm.
starts building this deep seated confidence that I can take on an assignment that I know nothing about, or I might know something about, but it will require me to learn many new competencies, but I trust myself to do it. And so that creates that sense of deep-seated confidence that you take with you no matter where you go. You take with you in all your interactions. So when you're speaking up in a meeting, people will listen to you because of the way you show up with that deep seated confidence.
Hmm. So we have in you an advocate for lifelong learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I must say we at Get Abstract, we believe too that in order to advance, it's very vital to come from knowledge to action. You know, know
Yes.
better, do better, our slogan. And one of the many things I love about your book is that you share intentional exercises in each chapter to apply the insights gained to one's career. And you do that in three steps. So step one is introspection, step two, application, and step three, reflection and celebration. So being intentional, also that was mentioned in the beginning, it has a lot to do um, with having a good sense of yourself, obtaining self knowledge, and having that reliable internal compass. How do you exactly do that?
Yeah, yeah. You know, self knowledge is so critical. Knowing who you are, your strengths, your weaknesses, your values, what you like, what you don't like, what's negotiable, what's not negotiable, really allows you to make informed decisions. And as we started, that we want to move closer to our success every single day, right? The more you know yourself, the better prepared you are to keep moving towards that success every day. And so, in every chapter, and self knowledge also breeds confidence because, when you know what you know, it gives you the permission to say, I don't know this, right?
Hmm.
And so, that self knowledge is critical, and very few of us actually take time to stop and to examine our behavior. The only way you're going to get to know yourself, because we have this espoused vision of who we are or even espoused value, but when you reflect upon how you show up, how you make decisions, how you act, as a witness, like, you really get to know yourself. And so I ask readers to stop and introspect every chapter. Whether, if we're talking about value creation, I ask you to introspect. How are you creating value? What value are you creating? So the more you know yourself, the better decisions you can make. And then I also ask the readers, what is their desired state? How would you like to show up? How do you want to be known in a room where you're not present?
Hmm.
And then I ask the reader to chart a roadmap to apply the learnings, because here's the thing, like you said, knowledge without action does nothing. So if you read my book, great, but if you don't apply the learnings to show up differently, then whether you read the book or not, it doesn't matter.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And so the whole key is, right, it's to know where you are, to take the learnings in the book so it takes you to where you want to be in the future.
Hmm. Shamina, you have tons of good advice and so super relatable. I wonder what's the best advice that you ever received in your career?
Wow. I'm going to share two. The first one is going to be really quick. It goes back to that intentional attention chapter. And my boss, when he was teaching me how to qualify opportunities, asked me to ask this question to myself all the time: what deserves my attention? It is the best advice I've got. I became so intentional about allocating my attention only to what deserves my attention and saying no to everything else. And this also comes with introspection. You have to know what is most important to you, and that's what deserves your attention. Everything else doesn't matter. You
Hmm.
just say no to that. The second advice, which became an inflection in my career. So, as I told you, I started humble beginnings, recognized that the only reason I was hired and the only reason my company processed my green card was because of the unique value that I was contributing. So, I became very, very intentional about creating value towards my organization, unique value every single day. Now, that company, after 3.5 years, shut down. They ran out of money. But by then, I had my green card. And so I joined IBM, and I moved from being a software engineer or a programmer to a systems engineer. And this was aligned with my innate strengths, my interpersonal skills. I love working with people, I love solving large, complex problems for people. And so that got me an award. It was called the Rookie Systems Engineer of the Year award.
Mhm.
Because of that award, Ramona, I was invited to a women's roundtable, and our general manager, Susan Whitney, was visiting from Chicago, and I was just in awe of Susan. And my boss had asked me to walk her back to his office after the meeting. So on the way back, she first of all said, "Congratulations, Shelmina, for winning such a prestigious award." And I thought, oh my God, she knows about my award. I was so excited. And then, as casually as someone asks you for your restaurant preference, she says, "Where do you want to be in 5 years?" I was stumped. I looked at
Oof, yeah.
her with a glazed look in my eye and I said, "I don't know." I said, I get so busy doing the best possible job in my current role that I don't really think about, I don't even know where I want to be in 5 years. And her answer changed my career trajectory. And I want everyone to listen to this. She says, "Shalmina, it is critical that you do the best possible job in your current role. And it is equally critical to know what you want to do next and next. That way, you're working towards something bigger."
Mhm.
And she ended that saying, "You have so much potential." So, a
Mhm.
few takeaways here. First and foremost, I want everyone listening to us to know that you have so much potential. You don't even know what you are capable of until you step outside your comfort zone and try it. So, that's number one. Number two, every interaction gives you an opportunity to learn. We talked about this lifelong learning, right? So the way I look at it, it's a two-way street. One, you contribute value at your maximum capacity. Two, you grow at your maximum capacity. So when you approach every interaction as an opportunity for growth and learning, then you will pay attention and actually act upon what you just learned. So
Mhm.
Susan could have said that, and I could have said, "Oh, that's interesting," and not done anything. But when Susan said, "Where do you want to be in 5 years?" Even though I didn't know the answer to that, there was no one that looked like me in any roles that I could aspire. So while I couldn't answer that question right away, it planted a seed in my head. And that's when I got pregnant, I decided I was going to do something to buy a home with a swing in the backyard. And that's what motivated me to move from systems engineering into sales. And in
Mhm.
sales is where I excelled. So small actions can lead to huge consequences, but
Mhm.
you must act.
Yeah. Say, did Susan function as your mentor or advisor over the year? Did you stay in touch? Did you hear more often from her?
100%. In fact, I'm still in touch with her. She
Mm.
very clearly knows how much she has impacted me and my career. And everything I'm doing now, I couldn't have done had she not just motivated me to think about where I want to be next, but she became my mentor. She became my sponsor. I stayed in touch with her over the years and she guided me. And so
Mm.
in my book, I talk about how I earned her mentorship and how I made sure that she became my long term mentor. I know we haven't talked about relationships here today, but
I'm
I
especially asking because of that, because actually someone
thank
is
you.
asking here in our
Yeah,
Q&A, somebody is saying it is not easy to find a mentor.
yeah,
How did you find yours? You answered that,
yeah,
and the person is asking for any advice how to find a mentor, if
yeah.
not walking somebody very important back to the boss's office.
You know, I have an entire chapter. One of the strategies for you to emerge as a leader, thrive as a leader, and continue to emerge as a leader are your relationships. And I talk about your peers, your boss, your mentors, and your sponsors. In fact, in that chapter, I state Alex Haley, an American author, who said, "When you see a turtle on a ledge, you know it had help getting there." That's the story of my life. I have had
Mm,
so many people help me get to where I am even today. And so I teach women how to look for mentors, because here's the other thing, right? Every time I speak at a conference, especially women's conference, and I ask a question, how many of you here have mentors? Every single hand goes up. And then I ask the question, how many of you here have mentors that that challenge you to recognize your potential, that challenge you to realize your maximum potential? Half the hands go down because they
mhm,
haven't really thought through, why do I need a mentor, and what specific gap is that mentor going to fill for me so I can continue to move towards my definition of success? So,
mhm,
who you find as a mentor, why you look for a mentor is very, very critical. And I teach you in my book how to do just that.
mhm. I have another very interesting question. Do you have tips for introvert people? What can we do to be more visible and have the courage to speak and shine? Shamina, you're obviously so, I mean, you're so present and like you're very out there. That's why I'm interested in the answer to that question.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, introverts bring a tremendous amount of value to the organization. See, the beauty of an organization is if we're all the same, then there is no additive value contribution. And so, whoever is an introvert, I want you to know that that is a strength. You don't have to be like anyone else. However, you must learn to speak up in a way that your ideas are heard, because as an introvert, if you just do what's assigned to you, then you will not get the visibility. The way you get the visibility is by contributing towards the success of others, by contributing towards the success of your teammates, of your boss, your senior leadership teams, etc. And so you don't have to go rah rah, speak up. You can speak up in a very thoughtful, kind way. You could even write emails that will enable other people to succeed. But your focus should be, how do I contribute value towards the success of my organization? And then that will give you the confidence to speak up, because you will know that you're not speaking up for you. You are speaking up because you know you're helping someone else achieve their success.
Hmm. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Shalmina. It's really hard to say that, but we are running out of time. The 45 minutes flew by so fast. It was really a pleasure having you here today. Also, thanks to the audience. Thank you for watching, for commenting. We didn't come close to answer all the questions that are in the Q&A. Thank you very much for your participation. Check out the summary of Show Your Worth in the Get Abstract library. And if you want to, order the book from shalmina.com. There is a promotion going on. Anyone who purchases the book the week of March 2nd to 9th will get a 2 month subscription for free. Right, Shalmina?
Yes, yes, because I'm about to launch an app, showyourworth.ai. And this week is the International Women's Day week, and I am really hoping that we truly inspire inclusion. So you buy the book during that week, you gift it to yourself or to your mentees, and you really step into the leadership pipeline and maximize your true leadership potential.
And again, the strategies from the book, they are basically for everybody, not only for women and women of color. They are for everybody who wants to advance into a leadership role, which is why all of you came here today, basically. So for more relevant content on today's topic, please check out our channels such as Leadership, Women in Leadership, and Leadership Development. And also for those who can access our micro courses, actionables, I recommend Master Team Leadership and Lead Like a Coach. Watch out for our follow up with the recording of the session in the next few days. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to contact us at corporate@getabstract.com. Or Even better, get in touch with Shelmina directly at contact@shelmina.com.
LinkedIn,
Contact@shelmina.com.
LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a
LinkedIn.
best way to follow me, by the way. LinkedIn is a better way to follow me. Thank you. Please follow me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Shelmina. Everybody stay tuned for further events brought to you by Get Abstract. And I hope to see you all again soon. Also, you, Shelmina, I hope to see you again soon. And bye bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for investing your time in us. And thank you, Ramona, for having me today.